Welcome into the lounge. I am Jake ELLENBOGEN. Joining me is my co-host over on Yankees Unloaded, but he's not a co-host today, folks. He's a guest. It's Gary Sheffield Jr. Gary, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. It's nice being a guest. You don't have to know what's going on. You just get to sit here.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it now. So I'm glad to be here. Obviously, I've been watching what you're doing, and I love that my co-host is building something of his own. This is great. So yeah,
Appreciate that, man.
the lounge. This is sweet.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully at some point we get an actual lounge where you could just sit on the couch and got the whole setup. But
yeah, I told my wife I want a couch that we could just sit here and it'd be like a more casual experience. But then she told me it was a terrible idea. So I'm sticking with this chair. I guess I spent $200 on this chair. So she's making me use it.
Is the back holding up?
It's all right.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
It could be better. I mean, I'm 31, so I feel like a lot of people resonate with that. Once you turn about 28, the back's cooked.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Also, it probably doesn't help you. Like, I got hit by a car, so it probably like lowered, the margin for error is a lot slimmer when it comes to me, in the back. But
yeah, no, I haven't been hit by any cars. I don't really leave the house much, so it's pretty difficult to get hit by a car in your living room. But yeah, no, my back's just messed up for no reason at all. I actually think it's just poor posture and just video game playing, which you do. So
yes.
Yeah, video game playing, you either have good posture and your parents fix it for you and tell you how to sit and stand. Yeah, apparently mine didn't.
So also want to give a shout out. You did just start at Covers, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
They got an absolute gem. You're an MLB podcaster, obviously, but you're also my Yankees co-host, and we've become best friends over the years. But how are things currently, man? I mean, I know, but they don't. So what's up?
Well, I mean, I miss Yankees baseball. There's so many people message us about doing this show. I think more so you're more live with your sports commentary, and people were asking you. I was watching that. And occasionally I go in there, Discord, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And I tell people, they're like, "Do you guys quit?" I'm like, "No, we're just not going to farm content and just kind of post what people said and then just have it be there to go viral where we don't really add anything to the conversation." I think our show is more so content based, where we feel like if there's actually something to speak on, which I'm sorry, in the middle of January, there's really not much to talk about with baseball. There's no window of when players have to sign. They can just sign whenever, wait however long they want to, or just not sign at all. And we hope, I believe, Jake, I'm sure you agree with this, that there was some type of timeline there so that we can do some definitive episodes and have an understanding of what to do. But, we just left it be and waited for baseball to start.
Yeah, it definitely worked out for me because I was able to start this, and obviously I had all my Rams stuff going on and NFL, and yeah, it works because it's like it's a hiatus, but it's a little bit of a break, and I think people get scared of the H word, man. You hear hiatus, and people are like, "Oh, they're gone for 5 years." Like it's like the hiatus just means like a break,
Yeah, because if you think about it, so many people want to be content creators these days. And I would say a lot of people start podcasts and they do 2 episodes. They don't see they get the dopamine rush, right? Of their aunt and uncle watch the show. But then all of a sudden you don't get the affirmation that you were looking for. And then that hiatus turns into something that sits in your garage and you never touch again. Right.
That's fair. Yes.
I mean, again, I said I'd be doing the Twitch streaming, right? Kick streaming again. I haven't done it, right? So hiatus sometimes can be bad, but we were never going to quit this show. Never.
No. I mean, that show had a lot of success. The other stuff, I mean, I've gone through that too. I actually did get back on Kick because they, I don't know if you saw, they refined their, different goals that you have to meet and all that. So might actually be worth it now. We'll see. Okay. But, all right. What was your childhood like, man?
Honestly, what's so interesting about it, I think everyone just assumes that you're the son of Gary Sheffield. You're named Gary Sheffield. You're Gary Sheffield Jr. You must have lived the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lifestyle, right? Where you're just the right-hand man of Gary Sheffield. But the thing is I was raised with my mom, actually. And the interesting part about that is that you have such a different upbringing. You get to see what it's like raised around the middle class, and then obviously you go hang out with the ultra luxury. It's just not a real life. It's not something that normal people get a chance to see, right? And then you see the differences there. And so for me, I always wanted to find my purpose. I always thought that regardless of how much money you make in life, if you don't have a purpose, you're not going to be happy. And I felt like my purpose was finding good people to work with. And I know a lot of people who complain about their work, whatever they do. And for the most part, it has to do with working with bad people. And that's why I was so thankful to run into you. I don't even know how we ran into each other,
we
but
just agreed on some things on Twitter, and then I think you DM'd me like, "Yo, did you ever think about streaming on Kick?"
exactly. Because I want to run into good people, and before you know it, you end up in a partnership with these people. And there are a lot of folks that really couldn't give a rip about the person next to them. And I'm different than that. I know that about myself. And so when I find people like yourself, and there are other people that we're going to find in this industry that are like that as well, those are the people I want to be around. So once I got into Yankees podcasting and I sit across from somebody like you, now we're not really working. And now money's starting to come in from those channels, and it's going to become a career. So when people ask about me, I just try to be who I am, a normal person, and try to run into other normal people that have, similar interests as me.
No, I love that. And I think it's kind of a reminder. I mean, hey, just because, my name is this doesn't mean I have this, and this. Doesn't mean that, I was just kind of thrusted into a certain thing, That's what I love so much about just the way you carry yourself, is because you don't carry yourself like, yeah, I'm Gary Sheffield's kid. As a matter of fact, like, you don't bring up your dad that often. Like, it happens, in passing, but you're not like, yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah, well, funny story about that. Actually, one of my best friends, his name is Tommy Frazier. And this kid, when we were in 5th grade, I mean, we've been friends for a while now. He actually, unfortunately, came down with leukemia. So we're like, oh my gosh, like, right? Like, no one, obviously no one felt worse than him. He's a kid going through this experience. It's atrocious, right? And we're trying to figure out, as his friends and his family around him, is what do we do to sort of cheer him up in this moment? And he was doing great with the chemotherapy. And the only thing I can think of was that he was a huge baseball fan. He was actually an Angels fan. And I knew he was a Derek Jeter fan. So what I started doing was getting signed baseballs from Derek Jeter, from my dad, from Alex Rodriguez. And there's actually a bat right behind me in the corner that's signed by the entire '05 Yankees. But that bat, I got an exact replica of that bat, and I gave it to him. And he was like, dude, Gary Sheffield, mind you, this kid's been friends with me for a while now. Why wouldn't you want this ball? I was like, what do you mean? And he didn't realize that my dad was Gary Sheffield this entire time. So we'd been friends for years. And this entire time, he just thought my name was Gary Sheffield just for the heck of it. He just thought that it was totally random. But that's just sort of how I've wanted to be. Of course, you want to be your own person. I think most people, if you do something in this world, you want credit for it. You don't want people to discount that. And obviously, certain people are going to make the attempt to do so, but you can't let those people get to you.
No, you absolutely can't. We'll touch back on that, because I know you got plenty of stories and stuff. I mean, you bring them up all the time on Yankees Unloaded. So we definitely have some stories from when you were a kid, and who you got a chance to meet and be around. But I want to switch gears here, talk about high school, college, kind of like what you went through there, because again, you're carrying that name, of course. And I guess I really want to ask, what was that experience like? Because you have a professional baseball player as your father, and it's like part of you had to have that itch to want to do that, right? I mean, right?
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. A lot of us get into our initial interests based on what our dad wanted, right? And that's normal. I think you start a life and your parents maybe live vicariously through you, or you sort of get that, right? The match is lit by your parents. They say, well, I want you to touch a football, or I want you to, right? And Aaron Donald, he wants his son to maybe touch a football at the very least, right? And give that an attempt. But that's the reason why you see so many former players' sons in Major League Baseball, is because they almost all touch the ball, right? They're going to give it an attempt. And obviously you get some genes there to help, but there's a reason that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got into baseball. Of course that he was inspired by what his dad was doing, and I felt the same way. So that's sort of how you get your introductory into baseball. And then, of course, as time went on, you start to realize, okay, I don't need this to be who I am. And then, of course, I'm sure you resonate with that to some degree, because you don't know when you're 10, 12, 13 years old that you're going to get into podcasting. I mean, we hardly knew this was going to be a thing. To be honest with you, I thought I was either going to be at an ESPN desk or working at a McDonald's if I didn't play baseball, right? So it's pretty crazy how much technology's changed our careers and our futures, but we're thankful.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like my dad is big on music. He plays in bands and what have you, hosts open mic night. And at one point, I went to college, and this doesn't even make sense, but bear with me here. I went to community college, to get my business administration degree so I could go and start my own concert venue. No joke. It was not sports related. It was a concert venue, and it never ended up working out.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's where, initially it started. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we're kind of both going through the same thing where, kind of sports media has expanded to, everybody kind of has it really easy now, where you can just pick up a microphone at your local, store and get a camera. It doesn't even have to be a camera like you and I. Could be a webcam. And you throw something up there, see if it sticks. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is, you can get started pretty easily. And it has been, game changing. And I think more often than not, it feels like people now, they want to be influencers. They want to be content creators. I mean, if you asked a kid today, they want to be a streamer, right?
It's a blessing and a curse, right? Like how easy it technically is, because
yes,
obviously now that we do Yankees Unloaded and it's working, it just works every time now. If we hit the record button, it's working. People will say, okay, well, that seems really easy. And to be honest with them, at this point, yeah, it is easy. But the hard part is when you start and you don't get that push, you don't get the affirmation, and now suddenly you have an identity crisis. Am I doing the right thing here? Did I just buy a $2,000 camera, or did I overspend on something? Why did I buy this microphone? Nobody wants to hear what I have to say, but people need to realize McDonald's sells more hamburgers than any other burger place on the planet. It's not because they're the best hamburger in the world. It's because they market and people know they exist. And that's what people need to know about podcasting. You may be great at what it is you tried a couple years ago and then you turned it off, but you need to tell people you're doing it. You need to continue to believe in what you do. And that's actually what you told me when we first started doing this podcast. You're like, dude, Yankees Twitter or Yankees X, you may be considered somewhat of a black sheep in that, that area of the social media world, but that's not YouTube. YouTube is a separate monster, and they will allow you to be yourself, and you're going to find your crew. You're going to find a group that only cares about what it is you're talking about on YouTube. And at first I was like, well, he's super successful in what he does with the Rams and obviously what you do with Downtown Rams, so I'm going to believe him. And then we started doing the show, and sure enough, the numbers came right behind it. So felt really good to see that materialize, but I don't know. I try to encourage people that they can do the same thing.
No, I love that. And, kind of going back to college, because I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but for those of you that don't know, like, how did you get into this? Because obviously, you just mentioned like, yeah, you were interested in playing baseball. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you said you had an injury. And so that kind of threw you off as well. So which college, how did that work? And, is that when you just kind of gave up on that and went into sports media?
Yeah. So I was in junior college here in Arizona. I was just playing locally and playing for actually a really good school, highly competitive. And I really didn't play much my freshman year, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't lie to people about the past or anything that happened, but I got a lot better in the offseason after my freshman year, had a great sophomore season, and committed to Florida State. But after that happened, I got drilled in the face with a pitch. I mean, it looked eerily similar to the Giancarlo Stanton situation when he was playing in Miami. And
Damn.
that's why it was so crazy to see that. But after that, I didn't go to school. I mean, it was bad. I didn't go to school for maybe 2 months after the injury and didn't end up going to Florida State. Unfortunately, like scholarship all fell through. I was having issues with classes. And right around then, I realized I started to ask myself, can I live without this? Like, is this my identity? And at that time, it was. When you're a baseball player, you are a baseball player. If you're a football player, you are a football player. And people need to understand that some people can spend some of the most important years of their life trying to force a game that's really not meant for them long term. The last thing I wanted to do was go play baseball into my late 20s when the game wasn't meant for me at the next level. So I had to figure out very quickly, am I okay with my identity if this doesn't exist? And I answered very quickly. I knew it was a yes. My grandpa, who he passed away in 2017, had always told me that I was going to start a show someday. He said I was calling it The Big Show. And at no point did I tell him I was interested in this. So I had no clue what he was talking about. But as I started this podcast, I was like, wow, this is really connecting the dots for me. And it was an easy transition after that.
Yeah, and it's probably easy for your grandpa to say because, you know, when you're around somebody, you get an idea of who they are. And you probably showed, you know, bits and pieces of this over the course of your life, you know, where like I had that too. Like when people were like, oh, you're going to be a broadcaster for the Rams or the Yankees. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. Like, yeah, I hear you. Oh, yeah, I'd be a psycho with it. Like downstairs, like in the basement, we're playing with this little, you know, small bat. My brother and I would just throw the ball, hit a home run if it hits, goes over our like bar downstairs. Yeah. And I would always announce. I'd be like, Derek Jeter at the plate, like, you know, like, and so I think that's just honestly what it is. Like for you, it's like, okay, cool. You know, you've put this stuff out there, and your grandpa was paying attention. It was like, yeah, this is probably where you're going to end up going. So
yeah. And it's like, it was technically the evidence for you was there. For my grandpa, obviously was there. And yeah, at some point or another, the interesting part about this gig that no one talks about, I would say even the people who are currently in the mix, in the thick of it, they don't talk about the fact that once you sort of get up onto the pedestal and you start to grow, people are going to really attack how you got there. Right. And how easy that process was. They're going to call you a plant. They're going to say that you're coming from somebody's shadow or somebody did something before you. And all you need to know really is if you're being criticized, that's a good thing. If nobody's criticizing you, no reason to worry about it. They don't know you exist. Okay. That's all it is. And I think that's something my mom had always told me. She's like, honestly, if nobody's talking about you, why would you worry about what's actually happening? Just continue to create, continue to try at things. You're going to suck at some things. You're going to find out what you're great at. And then when you find out what you're great at, people are going to tell you you stink at it. And more people are going to tell you you're great at it. So that's sort of what I've lived by. And you helped me see that.
Well, I appreciate that. You also have helped me see that as well. And, you know, a friend of mine, Brent Lancaster, who I've known for a while in the Rams Twitter sphere, went to the SoFi Stadium tour I did was with him. And he had something to say when we were in LA in November. He had like the best thing I've ever heard. Maybe not the best thing, but one of the best things. It's very simple. He said, it's not personal because regardless if it was you or another person, the haters are going to exist. But the reason being is it's a direct projection on who they are as people. So if it wasn't you in that position and it was somebody else, they'd be getting the same thing as you. It has nothing to do with you personally. It's just whoever was in that seat would get that because these are coming from people that are not, one, comfortable being in their own shoes. Two, they're jealous. And three, they don't have anything going for them. And when you combine those three things, it's like, well, that doesn't make a person likely to be very kind, right? So I think that was a really good point. in dealing with that. And kind of like the whole, because I see it get thrown around. I laugh because I know the whole story, or at least what you've told me about the whole nepotism thing.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like you have gone to a level because of your father. I think you know your stuff really well. You're very articulate in your responses.
Thank you.
And of course, and then the work that you put in, like the knowledge of the game, like you've made me a better, MLB, analyst, if you will. And so, I hate that when I see that. But it's not just you, because I see it now. I see it with Bronny James, and yes, I know you were waiting for this. We get a chance to finally talk about this. Fun fact, this right here made me want to do the Lakers podcast. Like, this actually was one of the things I was like, I need a platform to be able to talk about this.
Isn't it interesting? Because people are it's so motivated. The conversation is motivated by so many different things. And obviously I won't even touch on them because it's mainly, if you really think about this Bronny James situation, I think people just want to hear themselves talk when they see the 55th overall pick in an NBA draft and they say, wow, Bronny James occupied that pick rather than a player who earned it, right? A player that they couldn't name and they don't care, right? If Bronny James wasn't selected, they would have said Bronny James stunk at basketball. If Bronny James was drafted 55th overall, they would say he didn't deserve to be there. He stinks at basketball. If Bronny James scores 25 points in an NBA game, they say, well, the defense is allowing him to do this. The games are fixed, and they're not allowed to touch him because LeBron James is making sure the commissioner allows them to score. Now, again, these are conversations we see about Patrick Mahomes. We see these conversations about people who are universally disliked, I guess you could say, in this sphere. Unfortunately, Bronny James is in a situation where his dad was playing in the NBA, and he's a great player. He's 40 years old and still a great player in the league. And he could help facilitate an opportunity for his son to do what he loves at the NBA level. Now, obviously, his son has to be good enough, because you don't just go score 17 points in an NBA game and you do it because you stunk, okay? He needs an opportunity, and his dad can help facilitate that. And here's my real answer to nepotism, okay? Because people obviously have a ton of different opinions on this. If you can provide your son or daughter at any point in the future to make $1 that they otherwise wouldn't have if it wasn't for you, wouldn't you? What are we actually doing here? Is it really personal? Is it really that upsetting? Because I can tell you right now, if we started Yankees Unloaded and 25 years ago, you and I both have sons or daughters who are super interested in running a Yankee show, and we decide on our own, we think personally that these two can run this show, and we decide to pass down the company to them, are people really going to have that much of a problem with it? And to which I say, if you did, well, maybe you should start a show that's successful, and you can do the same with your son. But people don't look at it this way. They look at it in a way that the world doesn't work. The world works this way. People start Fortune 500 companies. People join into the NBA, in which you see it. If you have an opportunity to facilitate an opportunity behind you, you should do that. So it's something I hope I can do in the future, and I believe I will. But yeah, I don't understand the criticism of Bronny James. I really couldn't care less. If you have G League, because I believe it's called G League now.
Yeah,
if you have
Gatorade
G League, right? If you have G League games selling out, they're selling jerseys for a second round pick. The pick is worth it. Okay. He's just worth it. And people say, oh, this is an unprecedented contract. No, it is not. This is not an unprecedented contract. The Lakers the year prior signed a second round pick with the identical contract, but no one cares because they didn't actually care about the contract. They just care to make a point. And unfortunately, that's to the expense of Bronny James, but I'm rooting for him.
I am too. Not just because he's a Laker. I mean, I think it's a cool story, but just because a cool story doesn't mean like he didn't earn it. And say what you will, when people bring up, well, he didn't score much at USC or whatever.
Right.
I think there's a lot of it. Like, there are USC fans that feel like they were kind of screwed because like we had, a lot of expectations for him, whatever. The guy had a heart condition. Like, they thought he was going to die on the court, And so
But
it's
nobody
like,
cares about that, unfortunately. As soon as he recovered from that, it suddenly became, okay, we can be hypercritical again. And I don't know why our media today starts off being critical. I'd probably say the answer, I guess, is that being critical is easier to be seen as opposed to talking positively. But I guess we decided to do Yankees Unloaded, and the first thing we wanted to do was say, okay, what is positive about the situation? And then if something's negative, we'll do that after. But people don't do that. They do negative first about Bronny, and if it's positive, next subject.
And the whole thing, I love what you said about the second round pick, because I think it's just exposing the media to, okay, so you don't talk about second round picks, so you're not aware that they make this money, and this is pre-slotted because they can't just negotiate. I mean, they could probably change some terms and whatnot, but this is all agreed on by the collective bargaining agreement that's already been in place. So yeah, it's a lot of reaching. He had 17 points the other night, and then immediately the goalpost move, and they're like, well, it was garbage time. It's like, I don't know. I saw him cross up Giannis, had Giannis hack his arm, no call. He was still in with Giannis and still doing his thing. So
he crossed up Giannis.
Like, hardcore.
What person? I actually want to know who sucks at NBA, like who actually sucks at basketball that can cross up Giannis in real life. I want to meet a person, and I want to go play basketball with them at a local church league, because clearly I don't know what sucking is at basketball, because if sucking at basketball means you can do that at any point in your career, I would love to suck at it.
Man, I know. And that's kind of my first thought. I mean, I was always raised, like, my father always told me that even, like, for instance, you got, what's his name? The Mamba guy. Oh my God. Played for the Celtics. Considered like the worst.
Oh, you're
player.
Talking about the white
Scalabrini.
Mamba.
Yes. Scalabrini.
Yes.
So Scalabrini would own anybody, like any one of those, as you would call them, jabronis.
Yes.
In a game of street basketball, right? My dad always said, no matter what league you're talking about, if you're talking about the pros, they belong there. They're there for a reason. They belong there. And they are the best in the world at what they do. Like, even the worst player on the worst team in the NFL would be the best player on any college team. Would be, like, there's a lot of, I guess that's kind of like the thing where I feel like a lot of people nowadays, we live in a world where video games have these ratings, and so we go by that, which, by the way, they're inherently flawed because humans are flawed, and the human, idea of, oh, well, these ratings, someone had to come up with them. It's not like God came down from the heavens and said, this is actual. Someone had to create.
The 57 overall in NBA 2K, they think he stinks at basketball because his handling rating says it's a 54 and he's a shooting guard. But then all of a sudden you take that 54 overall and throw him over to the YMCA, and he's doing windmill dunks and doesn't hardly hit the rim the whole day. That's how good they are. Brian Scalabrine, to your point, could go down to any YMCA. He can go down to Rucker Park and shut it down instantly. After retirement, people don't get that.
He still does. He takes video and he talks trash because people are like, he's like, tell me I suck again. He's like, you suck. And then he just dunks on him. Or you haven't seen that?
I have seen it, but funny. People don't get it. I would actually argue that NBA, I would say more people in the world think they could play in the NBA than any other sport in the world. I really believe that. I
agree with you, because what they'll say is they'll be like, well, Speedy Claxton was 5'10". Right. So I could be a point guard. I don't want you handling the ball. I don't want you being the quarterback of a team. Like, the hell you can. You're saying you're qualified as a point guard because you're short. That's the entire.
Nobody ever says, I think, like, I watched your dad play and I watched A-Rod play and Griffey Jr. I think I could have stood out in left field and they hit a ball to me. No one's actually ever said that to me in 25 years of me speaking English. Okay. But I've seen it a ton. Gary, how many points do you think you could score? How many points? I think I could get 10 points if I stood out on the perimeter in an NBA game. No, you couldn't. You would be blocked. Every shot you took would be blocked. Every single shot. You would not get a shot off. That's how good they are. So I guess to wrap it up, the fact that Bronny James can give you 17 in a game, it goes to show you he can play. It's just to what extent, I guess we're gonna see.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him, like you said. I don't know if you remember that football one. I forget, it was one of the offensive linemen retired. He was like, yeah, could you, what was it, get 5 yards? I'll give you, how many carries was it?
Oh, wasn't it Skip Bayless? If they gave him like a certain amount of carries or like how many yards he would get, and they were like, well, I don't think he'd block for him. Yeah, the average person would not gain a yard in an NFL game. Not a yard. You would be blown up. I literally was handed off the football, wasn't a running back by any stretch of your imagination. I was just desperate to get a handoff. They handed me the football in 8th grade, and I couldn't even get off the line of scrimmage. And I was one of the fastest players on the baseball field, and I couldn't do anything on a football field. And I think what helps here is that a lot of people play football in high school. They get that opportunity. They throw the pads on. They're like, yeah, you know what? I suck at this. And then they go home. But basketball, you don't even make the team. They just tell you to go home because you're not 6'8". So you just get to pretend like you could have done it.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is funny though. It was like, I think it was 10 carries to get 5 yards. No chance.
Not a chance. No.
Because like, are we counting negative yards too?
Ezekiel Elliott couldn't even get that right now. And people think they can do it? No, it's not happening. No,
it is funny. I mean, honestly, this is what hot take sports media has become. And we've talked about that ad nauseum. Yeah. I mean, the idea that like, we're not really, and I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot where instead of analyzing the game, we're like talking about, why are we still talking about Bronny James, LeBron, and Stephen A? That's what I want to know. But like, it's stuff like that where it's like, we're still talking about this. We're still talking about Bill Belichick's girlfriend and going to the, North Carolina instead of staying in the NFL. It's like repeated stuff that I don't even think that many people care about. And it is fascinating to me in that regard. And then it is funny because nowadays to cut costs, definitely to cut costs, you'll have these not multifaceted. You'll take a basketball expert and you will tell him to talk about the UFC, and it is the funniest thing you'll ever see. It'll be like, yeah, he's had 5 knockouts. No, he's been knocked out 5 times in a row. Like,
they do that a lot. Right. And you can obviously tell, like, Colin Cowherd is actually one of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
To broadcast, period. Like, that's sort of what got me into this industry, was watching Colin Cowherd. And the interesting part about it is, actually, if you watch him, he actually does know a little bit about everything.
He does.
He's almost like the Rogan of sports. But then there's other people, and I won't name them because obviously then they'll come whining to me, is that they'll be extremely knowledgeable in the NBA. They know all the teams. They know all the players, the back-to-backs, where they're traveling, when, why, all the storylines. Like, that's great. And then they'll throw them a mic and they'll start talking about baseball. It's like, I understand they put it in your contract. He's like, yeah, my agent told you I'm a Swiss Army knife. You can pay me $10 million a year. I'll talk baseball, basketball. We're not all experts on all these sports. You don't possibly have all the time. You probably can be an expert on about 2 of them. Okay.
No,
you do
I
college
agree.
Football, NFL, NBA. Okay. But you can't tell me, boxing, NBA, MLB. Don't tell me, who just got called up to play left field for the Royals. And then suddenly you're going to be on my screen Sunday night for football. You don't. So yeah, that's what I try to tell people, is that you can only know so much. And I think at least I'm pretty realistic with my lane and what I don't know. I'm trying to get into hockey though. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh man, I was so into hockey. This is the problem with hockey, right? Hockey is like playing that really in-depth story game that you put on the shelf and haven't played in 2 years, and you open it up and you're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the story. I've forgotten everything. And you don't even remember how to play the damn game, right? Hockey is one of those sports, at least for me, since I never played it. It's like when you get out of it for a little bit, you're like, wait, that goalie played for that team, but he's on this team. And then it's like, oh my God, dude, it's everywhere. So yeah, it's definitely one of the harder ones to follow, I found, because I used to be really into it from a betting perspective. And then basketball has always felt like, yeah, I can get back in that pretty quickly. Football,
NBA is easy.
It's football's easy for me, but it's not easy, and I'm aware of that. 53 guys on a roster, 13 to 16 or 17, however many are on a practice squad. Then you have the IR that now has like 8 to 10 guys, and new coaching staff every year, new head coaches. I mean,
the coordinators, the draft, trades in the draft. It turns around quick too. Like you'll watch the Rams be mediocre in a season, and then people will say, okay, well, why would we be mediocre? We should just tank for Caleb Williams. We should tank for whatever player.
I didn't know you were actually speaking like, oh, this actually happened.
Right. And so in the NFL, things can turn around really quickly and things can change very quickly with a couple of positive decisions. Well, it's not that way in baseball. You don't usually get great and then just stink and then get great again. It doesn't usually happen that way. There's usually a progression. And even if you know like surface level stuff, you can sort of look at the standings from last year and be like, oh, it'll be similar to that, right? Like you can just do that. Not in the NFL.
No, absolutely not in the NFL. I mean, we've seen teams go from picking first overall to being in the Super Bowl the following year.
Crazy.
And with baseball, it's like, man, they're creating a new analytic every single day. It seems like, we got waffle now, and
is there waffle?
Yeah, apparently there's waffle. I don't know what it stands for. I don't know what it means. I just saw his waffle or something. It's just silly. At this
I had a
point.
waffle yesterday, but it was at IHOP. So I'm not going to be introducing waffle on any of our baseball podcasts. I don't think our audience cares about that. I think they want actual baseball analysis and they want to talk about the game. And if the stat didn't exist 20 years ago, it's probably not going to be that interesting. So we'll leave it alone.
I'm glad that OPS has made its run to being like the focal point, I think, now, because batting average used to be that. And it still matters. I think people care more about on-base percentage and slugging than years past, and that's cool by me. But like when you get into the OPS plus and all that stuff, I know what it means. I don't care. I really just don't like it. I don't like any of those analytics. Analytics are to be used as a tool, not the end-all be-all. That's always how I viewed it, and I know you feel the same way. But as far as sports media goes, what is your favorite thing that you've done so far in sports media? Because I mean, you've done a lot, but like, what would you say is your favorite?
I've got to say that my favorite thing I've ever done was after about halfway through the season last year, I realized that we were actually getting criticism as to what was happening with our show. And for the most part, 99% of what was said about our show was positive. And I think it was really easy for the two of us to be on our high horse. We had the latest show that was popping off, and it makes you feel really good about what you're doing. But then there were a couple of folks that said, I think they can get better in this way. And one of the main ways that people were talking about was they need to let each other finish talking. And I remember you and I hopping on a phone call and we said, oh, that's kind of annoying, that somebody is criticizing what we're doing. I think anybody doesn't like that. But then the two of us made a decision very quickly. I mean, within the minute, why don't we just take it as constructive criticism and accept it for what it is and just get better at it? The very next episode, we did exactly that. I think we even went to the extreme. We're like, let him finish every breath he's got, and then I'm going to talk.
We did.
But you know what? The fact that we even made the attempt to do it people recognized it. I actually saw people leaving comments are like, oh, wow, this actually changed. And that was actually the thing I was most proud of. The fact that we actually had enough spine to be criticized and not rejected, because ultimately it made our show so much better. And yeah, it's human to cut people off when you have a great idea and you want to tell people, but it made our show, in my opinion, when I go back and watch our show, and I actually do that, I usually mute myself and I'll just listen to you. But I don't know. I just feel like that was the thing I was most proud of in 2024. And then now that we're getting started this year, I guess we're going to figure out what changes now.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. I mean, I think for me, you know, obviously I've had a lot of interviews that were really cool and everything. I think with us, it's not even Yankees Unloaded. It has to be the 24-hour live stream.
Oh God!
Say what you will. Hear me out on this, because a lot of people don't know this. Gary and I live streamed for 24 straight hours. Gary, I'm going to give it to you that we don't need to talk about how you passed out for like 8 hours. But anyway, 24-hour live stream. I had never done anything like that before. You were like in there. You're like, I'm down. Let's do it. And I give that a lot of credit to what led to us doing the show together. Like having that chemistry, because I think that's when we started getting, people in there. Dan, who, if you're watching, which you probably are, Dan was one of those people in our kick chat that would bring up Yankee stuff and baseball stuff, and we would talk, and he'd be like, "You guys should have your own show." So yeah, it was one of those things where I feel like that 24 hours, even though we were just playing like Warzone or whatever for 20, I don't even know how the hell we played Warzone for 24 hours, but we're pretty much just playing Call of Duty. But we were talking, we were interacting, and so that's no different than going live, talking about the Yankees, interacting with the chat, but also interacting with each other. I felt like that was kind of like the moment where I was like, yeah, dude, our chemistry is crazy now. Because it's like, who else can say that? Like, say what you will about any co-hosts. They have not spent 24 hours together.
No.
Nonstop.
No, it's usually about, like you said, discovering chemistry and actually working at chemistry. Because I think some people will just hop on a baseball podcast, hop on a basketball podcast, and just assume it's going to be, oh, this guy can clearly tell that this person is the right fit for me, and hopefully he asks me to be a co-host for his show later on and I make a lot of money, right? That's sort of how people take that conversation. But for us, before we even considered doing that, we actually developed the chemistry in what we were doing and developed a friendship. It actually reminds me a lot, because I watch a lot of YouTube golf. And for me, that's Grant Horvat. I enjoy watching his content. I'm, decent friends with his camera guy, and just watching that whole process. And he did a lot of work with Good. And I will tell you, when people see the chemistry between Garrett from Good and Grant Horvat, unfortunately, they broke apart in terms of the creative work. But now they're sort of getting back together, and people ask them, what makes it work so well on camera? And they said, actually, Call of Duty. Playing Call of Duty all night, every day, all night, and just building up a friendship and understanding, right, how to volley back and forth with each other and with our personalities uniquely. And then suddenly they're like, why don't we do this golf thing and take it seriously? And then before you know it, now everybody wants to do that, right? But you've got to do the work first with the people.
And it's funny you mentioned golf, because you got me into that. Because obviously, like, my dad was going out and golfing, and I was always like, I'd like to join you, but like then I'd have to learn, and that would be a pain.
Yeah.
But like, you were one of the people that was kind of like, I think you should just give it a try. It's like, why not? Like, maybe you're not gonna be great at it. You already have golf clubs, which I did. You're like, just give it a try. So I took some lessons, and I was just golfing earlier with my father. So, that's indoor, because for whatever reason it's below freezing. But that's neither here nor there.
It was 75 degrees today where I was.
Yeah, shush. No.
Right.
But no, it's cool though, because the golfing thing has been huge. I mean, that's a hobby. It's the only hobby. This is how I say it, Gary. The only hobby of mine that I don't monetize, I don't have to monetize and can stay a hobby. Because for the love of God, you have to have something that's not work. Because I mean, if you just make like even like video games, like if you monetize video games and you're monetizing this and that, like it becomes a lot of work. So
It's the
it's
opposite of monetize. You're demonetizing yourself. You're losing golf balls. It's
I know,
expensive. It is golf is so expensive, especially after COVID. I
but it's
mean,
worth it.
it is worth it. It's crazy how expensive this game's gotten. But the crazy here, I look at it as simple math. If you think about it, not everybody is as close with their parents as you are, and not everybody lives close by to their parents to get that opportunity. But I will tell you, golf, especially when you have a parent or you have two parents who are interested in a sport or interested in maybe the NFL, or gives you an opportunity to get back in the room with your parents and build. Same thing with your friends. You get married, you don't get an opportunity to really bring your friends back into the room and check in with your friends. You might not see a friend for 2 years because you don't have anything in common, but then suddenly you pick up the game of golf and now your buddy's texting you again, "Hey, are you free next Sunday?" And now you get a chance for 4 or 5 hours uninterrupted to check in with people. So I think in general, golf is about people. That's really what it's about. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how well you play. Like once you get good enough, sure, you're gonna care about it. It'll make you pissed when you don't play good. But then when you leave, you're still glad you did it because hopefully you chose the right guy to go out there with.
Yeah. It's also about scenery, atmosphere, all that as well. It's just really calming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, hitting into a screen, maybe not on the same level, but it's still, when it's cold out, you just want to swing. Hey, it works. It
It'll
definitely
play.
does. So going back to Yankees Unloaded though, I guess for people wondering, how the hell did this come to be?
Well, first of all, I wanted to do a baseball show. That's one. And
I
you
wasn't
didn't
doing
want
that.
to do, yeah, you were like, I'm here to tell you right now, I don't know the Red Sox fourth starter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who's coming out of the bullpen to bridge the gap between the middle reliever and the closer in Baltimore. I don't know those guys. Like I'll learn it, I think, once I'm just talking about, but I only know the Yankees.
Jake
I
10
want to
years
stick to
ago
that.
hates Jake now for that, by the way, because Jake 10 years ago could tell you everything.
That's fair. But I mean, Jake 10 years ago also didn't have a Slam and Ram show. So you've got stuff on your plate. And now I knew, okay, he knows what he's doing. He's not desperate for cash. So there's nothing worse than starting a business with somebody who's literally only thinking about getting rich. If your business is good and it's a great idea and you're going to run it properly, you're going to make money. I knew this from the jump. I didn't want to be money hungry. I didn't want my partner to be that way. That was actually like one of the main things. I was like, he's a great dude on his own, like business aside. But then also, you don't want to start this Yankee show with somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a show with the son of Gary Sheffield, and then we're gonna get rich and we're gonna get 100,000 subscribers and become millionaires." Right? That's not why you want to start a show because you
No.
won't be consistent. Once the show gets off the ground, you start making good money. You're gonna start doing it once a week, once every 2 weeks. Right now, instead of going into your actual broadcast where maybe you get a studio. Now you don't even want to go into the studio because you've already accomplished what it is you were talking about from the beginning. You and I started the show because we love Yankees baseball and we love the craft. That's why we did it. That's the only reason why we started the show. It wasn't to get popular. It wasn't to be liked. It wasn't to even find like-minded people. It literally was just to show people what we care about. And if people wanted to join in on that, great, amazing. And that
Yeah.
is literally all it is. And it's the reason why when we started this show, I think both you and I were like, this is such a nice load off from really just texting people about Yankees baseball. Now we have somewhere to actually put the information that we think and really talk about the process, of Yankees baseball. And then now there are people waiting on what our process is, which is crazy to me. But
It's
we're
wild.
it's just going to continue to grow, and we're thankful for it.
And what gave you the idea to start Yankees Unloaded? Like, because obviously you approached me and all that, but like,
Yeah.
really, what led to you wanting to start a show? Because it kind of came up pretty quickly. I don't think it was that long after we did our 24-hour stream, but there was some time. Like, there was a gap. I would probably say about 3-4 months. Yeah, I mean, like, was there a certain person that inspired you to do it? Like, I thought it was interesting because you came to me with this idea and you're like, I don't remember. Did you call me about it first? I think you texted me at first, then you might have called me.
Yeah, I definitely introduced the idea to you via
Yeah,
text, but
yeah. And I was just
brought
like,
it home.
no chance am I going to be able to do it. Because I wanted to be honest. Like, obviously, we're friends at this point, and I just, what I was not going to do is the whole fake it till you make it, right? Like, I knew I could talk about Yankee. Actually, I didn't even know I could. I want to give you credit on that. I was still kind of skeptical because you're like, well, you already have the blueprint on how you cover the Rams. Just do that with the Yankees. Like, and you already know because I've talked to you. You're like, yeah, but like this, and this, and the analytics. And you're like, screw the analytics. Like, we don't care about that. Like, you know the game, you know all that. We'll keep track of it, every week or whatever, every day. And yeah. So, I mean, you talked me into that. But anyway, what led to you even approaching me with this? Like, kind of getting into the idea of even starting a baseball show?
I would honestly say I wanted to do this show and approach you about it because when you look at how social media is used today, social media has created an avenue where there's so much tribalism today. And I don't speak politically on any, that's has nothing to do with it. When people now have a sports take, they're looking for like-minded people, and it just needs to be that. If you think the NBA is soft, then I only want to talk to people who think exactly the same way. It makes people feel good inside. It makes them feel fluffy inside. It makes you feel great. And I started to notice when I get on X or Twitter that it was essentially just a huge echo chamber. All the most popular Yankee shows that I was acknowledging or saw, I was like, I don't really see many people comfortable with straying from the pack and actually offering their own personal opinions that may or may not be correct. And I recognize that from you right away. That was one of the main things I noticed. And obviously, when you're watching football, there are going to be a ton of opinions. And some opinions are going to be very, drive right down the fairway, very simple. Nobody's going to argue. You didn't really say much. It's just sort of posting a highlight, and then you sort of just say, this was an awesome throw. But when I watch certain people create and they have the courage to be different and not being different just for the sake of being different, they're honestly just being their true self. It inspires me to create with that person and about that content that we have in common. And for the two of us, it was Yankees baseball. I wasn't going to try and force it to Rams and talk about football that I didn't know really anything about. I could have faked it around the Rams, no question about it. But for me, I knew I cared about Yankees baseball. I knew I had the courage to be different and not just to be different. And I know you did as well. So when I saw that, I was like, I cannot name you 3 people in the entire space I would trust in this role. I'm not joking you. And honestly, it might even be just you. So people obviously
just be you, because it's nothing against those people. I mean, unless it was like, Ariel, who was on the show earlier, like,
she was fantastic, wasn't she?
It'd be you two. Like, it's like that's all I know that I would be able to trust to actually run, like, with the Yankees. You know what I mean? But I wasn't. That's the thing. I also wasn't embraced. So I guess in a way, you and I both kind of have that a little bit differently. But I wasn't embraced in the Yankee Twitter sphere. Like, there were some people that were really nice to me, and whatever. I was way more embraced in the Rams Twitter sphere, obviously, right? But that's, I think, the thing is that, being comfortable my grandpa always said, be comfortable being uncomfortable, but he didn't mean by that, he didn't mean go and work with people that you're not comfortable with working with. He meant that about mobility, like how Colin Cowherd always brings up. Like, people are now not wanting to sit at the same job for 30 years and get a gold watch anymore. They're more open to moving. So that's where that saying comes from. And I totally agreed with him. But in terms of who you work with, yeah, I want to actually have trust. I want to, be comfortable with who I'm working with. And it is funny how it all kind of came together, and it was a whirlwind, man. Like, I don't even remember, what it was like before we started, talking. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of wild, and it happened. I think really where it happened is you saw how, like, totally against some of these, like, fan trades. But the problem is, like, when you're in this, Twitter sphere, for instance, the Yankees, you're a big name in that. You're just a fan, but you make an opinion, and that opinion travels across my feed, Gary's feed, all of that. And it starts getting spread like crazy. And, like, there was a lot of, like, really bad takes, in my opinion. And it wasn't that, like, you have your right to say whatever you want. I'll never say otherwise. But for me, constantly seeing, like, trade away Austin Wells. Austin Wells still isn't in the MLB. He's trash, whatever, trade him away. I'm like, why? We don't know what he's going to be. Like, give him that opportunity. And sure enough, now he's a starting catcher of the Yankees. He'll be their leadoff hitter, the first time ever a catcher's been a leadoff hitter. But it's not just him. It's like there's other players as well. The point being is that, like, to your point, is that I'm not going to go and just copy paste what other people are saying. I am not afraid to speak my mind, and I know you're not either. And I think that's really what makes this work so well. But also it got us to find each other on social media, because if I was just agreeing, I would have just clumped in with the pack. You never would have noticed.
Yeah, because people think, well, I have the courage to be different. I mean, what are you talking about, right? The people say, well, I have a popular show. What do you mean? I just say my opinions. And to some degree, that's true. Most of the opinions surely are theirs. But if I told a lot of creators, if you can just think, well, I really don't think the Yankees spending problem is that bad. If you can just, if you actually believe that, but based on the climate, the average fan is very pissed off about how it's going in terms of spending. Don't you kind of know, you read between the lines, the smart thing for me to do as a creator is to pump the audience with what I know they want to hear. Okay. That phenomenon right there is why so much creation is negative, and it's the exact same redundant type stuff that you see, is because the creator, before ever creating, they really know what the audience will respond to. And it's not just the courage to be disliked, but it's the courage to create something that you know that you care about and you honestly believe. And that's what I think the conversation was like this week on Skip Bayless. They're like, does he actually believe all the stuff he said about, like, LeBron and all these players? And, based on my experience with him, I don't really think so. But why are people even upset at that at this point? Because you can make millions of dollars now just faking it, like you think certain opinions. And when we started this show, I was like, we are not doing that. We are just going to create. And if people don't rock with it, you don't rock with it. But we're not going to change it so that people can receive it in some type of way.
Yeah. I think I remember now. I think it was Joey Gallo, because everyone wanted to trade for him, and I was so against it. That's how you started following me. Because you had been following me for a while, and then I think it was, I commented on one of your things, then you reached out about Kick, and that's what started all this. But yeah, we had been following each other for a minute, and all these people were obsessed with getting Joey Gallo, and I'm like,
your dad loved it, didn't he?
No.
So your dad is where you get your baseball smarts. He hated it. You hated it.
My dad despised that trade, because the one thing my dad cannot stand is home run or strikeout. He hates it. And I've always been that way too, because I'd rather have the guy that's going to get on base, hit for average, not hit a bunch of home runs, but I can consistently count on him in a big spot.
A later camera. Oh, hold on.
This guy.
Yeah, it's insane.
The hell did you just do?
We should be back.
Well, we're not currently.
There we are.
There we go. Okay.
All right, sweet.
I'm keeping all that. Oh.
Are you?
Yeah.
All right. Well.
What the hell?
All right, we're in FaceTime. Well, yo. I didn't plug my camera in, so it died.
This guy's got like a $6,000 camera. It's just like, nope.
Yep. Yeah, it was $6,500.
I was close.
Yeah. At least it was a write-off, so money well spent.
Yes, and you kind of have to in this economy. Anyway, so I mean, Joey Gallo, home runner, strikeout. My dad absolutely is not a fan. I'm not a fan either. Give me the guy that hits, balls in play. But no, that is, I think that's the one. But yeah, I mean, to your point, just kind of just regurgitating the same stuff. It gets old, and I like the way we do our show. Because I think the cool thing is when you build something, these people come in and it's like they kind of become of that same, mindset. So your audience is now full of people that are like, I mean, everybody's welcome, but I feel like we have a really intelligent audience, like people that really know the game. I mean, I learned stuff from our audience too.
There are also a lot of them are like 45 years old, which is pretty funny. It kind of goes to show you're creating something that's quality when actual adults are consuming the content, because you almost feel like every other podcast, their entire audience is like, there's nothing wrong with a 20-year-old listening to your podcast, but it kind of goes to show you the style of your show based on the average person who watches it. And I never in a million years, I thought everyone who watched our show, and when we did if we did a meet and greet at Yankee Stadium, there would be a bunch of 22, 23-year-old kids who love Yankees baseball. That's what I saw. Like, I really didn't think this would happen, but now it's like people who are like my mom's age are just walking up going, I love the Yankees. Yankees Unloaded. I went to church, ran into somebody who's 51 years old. Yankees Unloaded. When you guys back? It's like, what? Right? And it was just, it took me for a loop, but I guess it shows you the quality of our show. So not to pump up my own show, but I mean, your average audience got to mean something.
Yeah. It's funny because 25 to 34 is my go-to demographic for the Ram stuff. Right. And the older fans, not saying all of them, but a lot of the older fans are the ones that DM me and say, you're out of touch. I've been a fan for X amount of years. So it's kind of interesting where it's different. And it's like, it seems like a lot of the older fans, like our 65 plus demographics, are unlike anything I've ever seen, So they
should be in great moods. They've got all great interest rates on their houses. They should be in the way the interest rates look today, they should all be chipper. Every single one of them. Man. Everyone should be in a good mood all the time.
That is funny. So, all right. Throughout your career, I'm sure you faced some challenges. Obviously, we go through life. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced so far?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I could easily not bring this up, but I just will, because I mean, I feel like I've got the courage to do it. I will tell you.
Say whatever you want, man.
Bar none, the worst thing that ever happened, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in all of this, was I was working for Outkick, and an editor pushed me an article and was like, did you see what this guy said about LeBron? And I was like, no, I didn't see it. And so I didn't even click the article. It was actually just a screenshot of it. And I was like, hey, could you just tag the article after I write it? And he's like, yeah, this is the quote. So I write it, and the network I was writing for those of you who know Outkick, they're like, yeah, they don't like LeBron, right? For whatever political reasons. Started a school, got his son, an opportunity to play in the NBA, all this stuff. And somehow they just cannot stand him, right? But I wrote this article, and then after I published the article, I'm like, my phone is just blowing up. Like, what is going on? right? I have no idea. I'm like, I don't even care about this job at all. This is just a job out of college, right? I needed the money, and you're talking a job I acquired during COVID. Like literally, soon as the lockdowns happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I could do something remote. Amazing. I'll do this job for $3K a month. So I started doing this, and I'm like, why is my phone exploding? Sure enough, I look at it and they're like, oh yeah, you wrote an article that was based on a quote from Ballsack Sports or whatever. And I'm like, you're joking me, right? And I literally called my editor. I was like, why did you give me this quote? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, Fox News and all these networks are running with this article that I wrote. It's got my name on it, and you pushed this to me. And so I was like, get it deleted now. And sure enough, they're like, oh, well, Fox already took it and like posted it on their site. It's out of our control. I'm like, so essentially what they were saying was that it's going to make you look really bad, but it's really good for us because the clicks are great. And the people that are going to listen and watch their type of stuff, they're just going to essentially accept my article as the truth and be happy about what it is I'm saying in the first place. So for me, it sucked because there were a lot of people I had in the sports, this area, this avenue, this lane. And there were people who really rocked with me who pretended they didn't for a while after that happened. And then they sort of like literally people were like, what's up, bro? Like, great seeing you, great meeting you in person, all this stuff. And then I literally would watch them like on social media in a public way, be like, what a moron, literally talking about me. And then sure enough, like, you know, a year or two goes by and they're back messaging me to repost with my platform something that they really care about. And it's like, I had to make a decision. Like, do I ignore how people were treating me in that moment? Or do I just turn the other cheek? For some people, I let it go. But for others, I was like, you know, beat rock. So yeah, it was a tough moment for me. No question. It was a learning experience and definitely hard to swallow, especially at the time, because it's stressful, right? You want to be accurate. But at the same time, sometimes we just put our head down and we just do a job we don't really care about. And you make mistakes that are public. And that's what it was.
That's definitely a challenge. I would say, yeah, that's tough. But I mean, I don't feel like that's held you back since, you know. I feel like it was it was a bump in the road. At the time, it might feel like the end of the world because the last thing you want to see is your phone blowing up. You're like, oh, crap, did I get canceled? Like,
no, if anything, like, just working at the company, period, lost me money long term. Like, it really wasn't even like the job I did or anything like that. Like, nobody cares that I was writing articles for any network. You know what I mean? Like they really care about what I do behind a mic. And it's more about how risky are you of a hire, right? And now I've just signed a deal with Covers and I'm going to be doing this for 2025. And I'm going to show I am professional. Like for all the people who are projecting that negativity on me, they're wrong. But I'll prove that about myself as time goes on and then hopefully make you and I a lot more money.
No, absolutely. It is funny. Like, cause I mean, like I've gotten, and I've told you this, I've gotten before, oh, how are you doing a show with Gary? He's an asshole. And it's like, bro, Gary is one of the nicest people. I'm not just doing this I'll tell anybody. It's like Gary is one of the nicest people I've ever come in contact with. Thank you. I wasn't going to start off with, he's one of the nicest people in the industry. I'm saying, period, one of the nicest people I've ever come in contact with. And it is that reminder that it's like, who are you, though? Like, when these people are like, oh, I can't believe, but I don't know who you are. I've never met you. I've actually gone to a game with him. I met his family. Like, you know? And I think that's the thing. Because, I mean, you get that all the time. There's a lot of drama in the whole, you know, football field. A lot. And someone will be like, this guy's the Antichrist. And you go and you meet him in person and you're like, this guy's pretty chill. I'm now concerned, like, what's going on with you? Because this guy is a saint.
Someone did that to me at Yankee Stadium. They ran into, my wife wanted, she was like, let's go get popcorn. Let's go get hot dogs. And I was like, yeah, like we're going to have the whole experience. We go out there, we get a hot dog. And then sure enough, she's like, oh, I'm going to just run to the restroom real quick. I said, great, I'll be right here. Holding her food. Sure enough, some random guy walks up to me. I thought I was John Lennon, like the dude was going to shoot me right there.
Oh my
Right? I was
God.
like, oh, here we go. And he was like, are you Gary Sheffield Jr.? And I was like, oh, please God, be someone who likes me, right? And he said, I'm like, yeah, hey, what's going on, man? Like shook his hand, right? And sure enough, I was like, all right, exhale, because he seems normal. We were talking for the 3 or 4 minutes that my wife was in the bathroom. And before he goes, all right, well, I won't waste any more of your time. He's like, I'm gonna be honest with you. You were a lot nicer than I thought you were gonna be. I absolutely hate your Twitter account. I absolutely cannot stand everything about you. And he's like, but you seem like a great dude. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. And just walks off. And I'm like, it goes to show that we sort of live in these echo chambers where, you know, when somebody says something about someone's character or they offer a sports take that you just don't rock with or don't agree with, it's like, oh, this person is the Antichrist. This person is
every time.
They cannot, we don't have a bridge to walk across and meet in the middle. We have nothing in common with this person. I'm like, you realize just because someone agrees with you in sports or because they disagree with you, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean they're better or worse people, right? It's just, but people take it that way. And unfortunately, I'm not going to convince everybody. There are a lot of people out there that intentionally are going to misunderstand others out there. They're just going to pretend they don't get you. They don't understand it. And if they don't understand you, they're going to recruit other people to try and misunderstand you as well. So don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. Just be who you are and create. Do your job. And so that's what we do. We just ignore it. And some days it'll just piss you off and you'll respond. Yeah. But most days, you know, my wife and I will just sit by the pool and just laugh.
Yeah, it's funny. You just described Reddit in a nutshell. Rams Reddit. I don't recommend it. Toxic, like more toxic than the Britney Spears song. Anyway, yeah, no, it's bad. So what if you enjoyed the most about kind of your journey in this, and what have you enjoyed the least?
You know, I would really say I'll start off with what I've enjoyed the least. It is because I want to finish with the positive. I would say the negative is that when you're in this space, and nobody really talks about this, but they don't talk about where your next dollar is going to come from, because we all have a living that we need to make. Okay. And it is not cheap to live today. It is rent. If you're renting, people will tell you should be buying, right?
Every time.
And when you're working in this industry, what nobody tells you about is that you are often between jobs. One moment you may be making $15,000 a month, and people will say, "Oh, I don't make $15,000 a month. You've got it great. I didn't have that when I grew up." And then they don't tell you, "Oh, well, what happens in November when season's over? You don't make a dime." Oh yeah, and what happens if that network, for whatever reason, you were under contract for, we're planning on bringing you back for year 2, for year 3, for year 4, and you're telling your loved ones, you're telling your family, I'm going to be present and in this moment, in this financial situation for the foreseeable future. They tell me that that's happening. And then you go into year 2 and that contract is not there. They found some other talent that they would rather have. They may be cheaper. They may be younger, more controllable, or they may be better than you, right? You have no idea what the reason is. So the volatility of this job, and I learned this a while ago, but you saw it even with Ariel Epstein, one of the most talented people in this industry, and she brought it up in the public space where she mentioned she cannot stand the volatility of this job. So she started taking control and starting her own business. That's part of what we do at Yankees Unloaded, which is let's start our own business and take the volatility out of this job. And that's the worst part about this job, bar none, is all the people who tell you something's happening, all the promises, and then you get to the finish line and you look around and say, where all those people go that were supposed to be by my side? They are gone. On to the next thing. And you just have to live with it. All of a sudden you're in the middle of primetime season and you don't make but $300, and that can pay your Wi-Fi bill and maybe your water. and then you're done.
Your water.
Right? Yeah, and not even your water.
Though. It's true. I mean, I think, really what it comes down to is when you're doing all of this and you're constantly putting it out there. Like I've gotten deals that I've turned down, obviously, but I've gotten deals where it's like, yeah, so I want like royalties. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm editing, I'm recording, I'm going live, I'm making the thumbnail. Why the hell do you want royalties? You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I've worked with a lot of different people. What I find is, Borna Nazari, who is like essentially my manager with all the brands and stuff. He's great. Like 100% love the guy. Think he's awesome. Gets me deals, sponsorships, all of that. So definitely wasn't talking about him, but I've had others in the past that's like, yeah, what if I bought your YouTube channel? Be like, well, it's not for sale. Like you'd have to give me, you could give me $1 million and I'd turn it down. I would, because like why I spent all that time. I don't look at it like it's a monetary exchange thing. I don't look at it like that's the thing. Like Yankees Unloaded is going to get to the point. We've already made more episodes than there are games in a regular season. So think about those hours, all of those podcasts being at least at that hour because I'm your co-host. So think about all those hours, right? At least 172, and that's just recording or whatever. Now think about the time editing when before we started doing the live streams. Think about the time with the thumbnails. Think about the time watching those games, 3 hours a pop. Now think about all the different things that we do, whether we're using Baseball Savant, we're setting the table before the show, breaking stuff down, our conversations that are entirely about our job. Would you sell that for $1 million? I wouldn't even sell Yankees Unloaded right now for $1 million, because here's the thing. No. When you sell the channel, you're giving the rights to everything that you just did. So why would I give that up?
Yeah, you see because obviously people do eventually sell. I mean, you saw it with Barstool, right? And then eventually Portnoy ends up buying back into it. And he mentioned, right. I can't stand the idea of losing creative control. People started to ask Portnoy, hey, what's going on with Barstool? Because when they associate Barstool, they think of you. They don't think of who's in control now. They just think of your name. You think Portnoy and Barstool hand in hand. And suddenly he still cares about this. It's his baby. He made this company. And I believe he was saying like that other people had obviously a huge role in starting this company, but at the same time, you want it to run the way you want it to run. And when you sell your company, now suddenly your name, which is associated with that company, it no longer has the same pull. Now all of a sudden you've got creatives telling you, hey, yeah, you're going to be going this direction. Whereas nobody tells us what we're doing. We keep it professional. We're always going to do it that way. But yeah, if you can sell for $1 million, any company at all, for $1 million, $5 million, $50 million, all that is fantastic. But you need to remember you can sell it for that much money because you're already going to be making great money. So is it that big of a deal that you said no to $5 million? No, because you're probably making $300,000, $400,000 a year doing said show, and you have control. So how much is that worth to us? It's worth everything, really.
No, it absolutely is. And I think that's the thing, is that when you're coming from a place where you're not a content creator, you haven't created anything, no disrespect, but you have your 9 to 5, whatever, that doesn't even come across. You're like, yeah, I'd sell this for $1 million, but there's just more layers to it. And especially when you have those, like, the common, very corny, blood, sweat, tears. But I mean, hey, I used to cut my leg all the time on my desk back at home, because there was the thing where like you have like that drawer for like the keyboard. Like you could like pin it under the desk. You know how it like comes out?
Yes.
Yeah. So at one point I hit it so hard, it unhooked one of the brackets. So it was like a scythe essentially.
And that's what was cutting you?
No, like, so when we were, I actually had the scythe thing. I'm going to call it a scythe. This bracket was in my knee while we were winning one of the Warzone matches. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there in so much pain. And I'm like, yeah, ow.
You're just different.
This is like, yeah, dude, blood, sweat, and tears. Because yes, I absolutely have cried over this. Not recently, but early on. Probably shouldn't say this, but so-and-so someone almost deleted everything that I did, like very early on. And I absolutely shed tears. So yes, blood from the thing.
And tears, for sure.
The sweat is just, you're working for 12 hours and you forget to turn the fan on. But,
Right.
you know, that's the way it is. And the point is, it's a lot of work. And like, you know that. But, you know, kind of to wrap it up, I want to hit on, you know, a couple things here. Fatherhood. I can't relate, but I've met your absolutely adorable daughter. Although she doesn't look anything like the last time that I saw her, I would assume. That was a while ago.
No, she's a butterball.
And your wife, Priscilla. So
yeah.
How is fatherhood? How is the fam? Like, what has it all been like? Because man, you went from we're streaming on Kick to like, yeah, and I remember hearing you like, yo, dude, I'm gonna be like a dad. Like you did not sound like ready for it. And obviously you look it. So
it's a huge commitment. I don't think people really understand, because most parents, I should say a lot of parents, not most, think that it's good enough for you to put clothes on your child's back, put food on the table, but provide shelter, right? And we were always going to do that. Otherwise, CPS is going to come through the door any moment. But there's so much more that goes into parenting that nobody talks about. The community, building a community in your house where everybody feels safe when things aren't good, right? And obviously that goes for my wife. If my wife is unhappy in any way, she needs to be able to communicate that with me. And if I haven't created an environment where she can do that, well, then we're not going to communicate and it won't work, right? And that to me is something that I've always been intentional about, is creating an environment where the people around me don't have to be on eggshells, and I can try and create an environment that produces happy people. And that's what I'm trying to do. Is that growing up, I didn't get the type of time. Like my dad played Major League Baseball. Like I don't know how much time people think I got. Obviously, I was raised with my mom, but when you're raised with one parent, that's all you've got, right? You've got your one parent. But for me, I'm incredibly lucky that a podcast of mine, you know, and yours as well, is working where financially I can afford to be home. And if my daughter learns how to walk, I'm going to be right there, right? If my daughter says her first words, I'm going to be there. And so 20 years from now, she's not going to need me. She's going to be at Five Guys probably using my credit card. But I'm going to look at it, and she's going to respect everything that my family stands for because of all the time and effort that I'm putting in starting right now. And a lot of that has to do with this industry. If this industry didn't exist, I would probably be throwing my daughter into daycare, and I would be missing those moments. So that is bar none. The best part about this industry is that we have, I mean, literally you and I were texting. We're like, can we record this show tonight? That'd be great. Like sooner the better. But if we had to, it could have been tomorrow morning. It could have been tomorrow late afternoon. We had those options, and not everybody gets that chance. There are a lot of people who have to wake up in the morning and they don't get that opportunity. And there are people who miss them. So the fact that we started something that we've worked really hard, it's taken a lot of time, and we're not done yet, but we're trying to get people into college. We're trying to create opportunity for our future, for our kids' futures, for their kids' futures. We're trying to create something that affects more than just us. So being a parent has been amazing. I will tell you though, objectively speaking, I know it sounded all sentimental here. The first month stinks. horrible.
Literally.
That first month is so bad. And don't let anyone make you feel bad that you bring a newborn into the world and you're like, this is not it. It is not fun at all. But obviously you love the baby that you're taking care of. But that experience, I mean, I literally talked to my pediatrician. I was like, this ain't it. So this is not it. But now that she's smiling, right, you can put her in the air and she knows your face. She looks at other people. It's stranger danger. I want to go back into Dada's hands or my mom's hands. That's great. And it's something that, hopefully, obviously, that she's going to get to experience with her own kids later.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. It just because I got a chance to kind of experience that, just talking with you, getting to obviously meet her. And yeah, man, it's cool because, I mean, none of my like wicked close friends, and I don't want to offend anyone, but none of my wicked close friends have had kids yet.
Right.
So you were the first really that I can think of. I'm probably, well, that's not true. My friend Casey, she had a baby girl, so that's not true. But for the most part, guys, right?
Right.
None of my guy friends have become dads yet, or really close guy friends. So that was kind of the cool thing, is that it's like I'm hearing from your perspective, and when we're recording, you're like, all right, the baby is screaming. I gotta get going. It's just things like that. Like, you were kind of keeping me along for the ride, kind of from afar. We live on the other side, but it's kind of cool, and I know how much joy it's brought you. So it's just been, really cool to see that. And, obviously someday I definitely want to have kids. So yes, parents, chill. Don't worry about that one. Because my parents want to be grandparents so bad. My mom brings it up all the
That's
time.
Fair.
So
that's fair, as long as they'll watch them at some point.
They would, and they deserve it because they're great parents. So
Awesome.
I feel like I owe it to them, but I also don't want it to come across like, yeah, like I need to have kids just for my parents. Like, no, like I definitely want to. Right now, I couldn't even imagine that. But maybe 2 years, who knows? That said, more than 2 years, maybe. Like I said, literally, who knows? So the best, craziest story that you can tell on the show.
Craziest story? I mean, I've got to say, I don't know. I think I've told you this story, but obviously your audience maybe hasn't heard it. I don't know if I told you, but obviously it's that Randy Johnson story.
Yes.
And for me, Randy Johnson, I mean, he showed up to New York and he wasn't Randy. He wasn't the big unit when he got to New York. He was Randy Johnson, I guess. Right. And so you're talking about a player in his 40s. It's not going well. He's getting shelled, and he's an intense guy. That's all you can say. And I think most people understand this just from the outside looking in. He's exactly what he looks like, right? And sure enough, a couple weeks prior, Joe Torre actually sent out a memo to the players. And the gist of it was that, hey, the players' sons, he was talking about me. They can't just be meandering around the clubhouse during the game. Okay. You're not on the team. You're in a lot. Obviously, when you're talking about some of the star players and their kids, it is hard to gain control of those situations because they do get preferential treatment. They just do. And for my dad, he's like, I don't give a rip. You can go wherever you want. Well, when I was walking around in the clubhouse, they're like, hey, when the game starts, just kind of meander out. If we win, and Joe Torre was being nice to me. If we win, you can straggle back in. If we lose, get the hell out of the clubhouse. Get out of there. Because these players are not in a good mood. These are professionals. Some of them take it personally. Some of them don't. But you don't want to be there when they do. So I understood the message, but the players disappeared. I didn't think the game had started. But sure enough, I hear loud boos. What's going on? I couldn't imagine what could possibly be the issue. And sure enough, I see Randy Johnson come walking in by himself, and I'm thinking, what's he doing? He's in a sweat. So did he warm up? And maybe there was a person in the crowd that they booed? Did someone, I don't know what happened. Well, I walk into the clubhouse area where they have the food, the little kitchen area, and this is old Yankee Stadium. The kitchen was tiny. I look at this little TV, and it shows that at the time the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. This is where like Jorge Cantu, right?
Oh wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And they just blew the lid off this game. Okay, they put up like 10 runs in the first inning off Randy, and sure enough, I'm like, oh, this ain't good. So I stayed in there for a little bit. And as I was watching that TV, I'm seeing, okay, the Yankees come up to plate. My dad hits a 3-run home run, right? Posada hits a homer. A-Rod hits a homer. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. And this was like the Ruben Sierra era.
Oh, wow.
We scored 13 runs in 1 inning. Okay? So to wrap this up, I walk over to Randy. I'm thinking, I think the fact that he's getting a no decision right now, maybe I can approach him. So I walk up to Randy's locker and I said, hey, Randy. And he doesn't say a word to me, right? And I say, hey, Mr. Johnson. He turns and he goes, Gary, get the F out of my locker. Quit messing around. We are getting destroyed. You shouldn't even be here. And I turned around, I said, we're winning. He goes, quit screwing around. He goes, as soon as this inning's over, I'm having Joe come grab you out of here. Right?
Oh my God.
So I said, okay. Didn't say a word to him. Now, mind you, all of a sudden I go sit across the clubhouse. Next thing I know, I have a thing of like candy and Dippin' Dots in my hand that I grabbed from upstairs, like almost finished. And next thing I know, a trash can out of nowhere. I had no idea it was a trash can at the time, but it bangs up against like the wall, it caroms and hits me, and I fall down. And all the Dippin' Dots and candy and everything just go all over the floor, all over my clothes, completely ruining everything I was wearing, right? Now, mind you, a clubhouse attendant saw exactly what happened, and he came over and picked me up, and he was like, hey, man, Randy did not see you. Like, I watched it. He threw a totally different direction. It bounced over here. I'll go let him know. He's sitting in his locker, and he's like, hey, man, like, you just threw that over at Gary, and he doesn't say a word to me. He walks into the kitchen area, and he screaming a bunch of curse words. No way. Comes running out, and he was like, yeah, man, like, I think you should go talk to Gary. And he was like, did I like ruin like all this stuff? Like, I didn't realize I hit you with this thing. And I was like, no, it's not a big deal. Like, and all of a sudden he was like in a good mood, right? Showing you how intense he is. And the clubhouse attendant was like, yeah, man, you spilled all his Dippin' Dots. And he's like, oh, that's my bad. Runs over to his locker, grabs his wallet, and was like, here's 100. Go grab yourself some Dippin' Dots. And he's like, yeah, and grab me some too. So I went upstairs and grabbed like vanilla Dippin' Dots, and like, I can't remember what flavor he wanted. And I grabbed the Dippin' Dots, and like security was stopping me. I was like, no, Randy Johnson wants these Dippin' Dots. And they're like, all right. So they let me through, and me and Randy were eating Dippin' Dots for the rest of the game in the clubhouse. And I tried to walk down to go into the dugout. This is how ridiculously naive I was. I tried to walk down there, and Randy was like sort of near the tunnel, and Joe was like, hey man, you can't be down here. And Randy was like, shut up, Joe.
Oh my God.
Like, just shut up. And so the whole day was just a huge win. The Yankees won like 22-13. It was something insane. It's on YouTube. You can go watch it. But one of the most incredible moments ever. I actually talked to Derek Jeter about it, about how loud Yankee Stadium was that day. I think it was like Bernie Williams hit a bases clearing triple. Yankee Stadium, and it may have been close to falling down at that moment, because I guess we went and built a new stadium a couple years later, but it felt like that whole stadium was going to crumble. It was crazy.
That is crazy. That's a cool story. It really is. And it's funny the way you describe it too, because I mean, it's so easy to picture Randy Johnson as fierce, and but you kind of know the big 6'11" guy. He probably has a soft spot, probably has that kind of soft side to him that very rarely shows it, but you got a chance to experience it.
Yeah, and it's in his photography, I guess. He's actually like into photography now. Like, I've seen him around, especially in Arizona, which is where I am now,
Yeah.
you can randomly run into him at like a high school football game. You'll see him standing on the sidelines. Just you can't miss him. He's 6'11", every bit of it, and he's holding a $20,000 camera, right? Because I'm a big camera guy. Obviously, so are you.
Yeah.
And when you see it, you're like, oh, I guess you can afford it.
Yeah. So if you skipped around in the video, shame on you. But also, Gary's $6,000 camera shit the bed for the time being. It just fell asleep, and he couldn't wake it up. So he's using, what is it? The eyesight? Is that what they call it?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea what they call this 720p camera out of this $5,000 computer. It's amazing to me that Macs don't have like 4K cameras with lenses on them by this point, but
like this phone has like 3 cameras that are better than whatever the hell you're using right now.
It doesn't make any tangible sense. It just doesn't. I'm here to tell you right now, Apple should have fantastic webcams, and some people are impressed by these, but then there are other people who know cameras. And I tell you right now, if you watch the beginning of this podcast, you saw how I look and you look how I look now, I look like I'm being shot out of a cannon. I don't look at all how I looked before. Now, obviously, one is $5,000. The other one is, I guess, whatever camera they threw on this. But it's like, dude, put some more effort into this bad boy.
No, I'm with you on that. You have any other crazy stories you want to tell before we call it?
One quick one. It's just about Ichiro. Ichiro is just one of the coolest guys ever.
Bring up Ichiro.
Yeah, just one of the coolest guys ever. Anyone who knows baseball or was around baseball in the clubhouse, he's honestly one of the nicest people in the game. And it's so funny because every time I'd see him at the All-Star game, it's usually the only time I'd see him, and he'd be like, hey, Chef, watch this. And he's just talking directly to me. He would put like a computer in his, like he would put like anything in his backpack, and he's like got a notebook, puts glasses on, puts a hat on his head, and just walks out of the clubhouse, hasn't even spoken to the media, and no one recognizes him. Nobody. No one. My dad could never do that. Alex Rodriguez could never do it. As soon as Derek Jeter would walk through the clubhouse, you can sort of see all, right? You see the New York Post, you see all these people, you just see them scan, go, okay, I got this question, I've got that, I'm going to tee up this. Ichiro literally, he was one of those guys you wanted to talk to. He was a dude on the baseball field. And sure enough, the dude would just take a shower, bring his clothes with him towards the shower, get dressed over there, and just walk right past everybody. It was genius. So you got to tip your cap when it's due. I'm tipping my cap to Ichiro. When you can be that great at baseball, a literal Hall of Famer, and be unrecognizable, he's living the dream. I want to be rich and not famous.
And he's very fluent in English, which is what I found.
Yeah, he called me his brother from another mother. He literally, that's all he called me. He was just comfortable. And I can't remember what player it was, but he was like, oh, this guy wants to meet you. Someone in the NBA. It might have been like Kobe Bryant. And he's like, who's that? No idea who it is. Actually, it was Michael Jordan. They're like, yeah, it's Michael Jordan. He's like, sure. Like, it's just no big deal to him at all.
Ichiro said that?
Yeah. Right? Because the culture's different over there.
Yeah.
Like, baseball is the culture in Japan. It's not like here where if Michael Jordan and LeBron walked into a room, everyone just scans the room, goes, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. If you go some other country and you go see soccer is it for their country. You go to Japan, baseball is it, right? ESPN's Jeff Passan was like, yeah, Americans need to emulate whatever they're doing with baseball. Yeah. Ichiro's not going anywhere in Japan and not being recognized.
Yeah, it's wild, but no, that's awesome, man. Look, I'm glad you were able to tell those stories. I'm glad you were able to kind of give, because I mean, I know who you are, but I think my audience has a little bit of an idea. And obviously most of the people that watch this will already know you, but for the people that have never heard of Gary Sheffield Jr., well, I hope you got a pretty good taste of who Gary is. I guess the last question I'll ask you, man, is how do you want to be remembered as a person and a content creator when it's all said and done?
I want to be remembered as a great dad. That's first and foremost. And secondly, I want to be remembered in this space as fair. I'm going to make a lot of money in this industry, and so are you. I'm not worried about money. For me, all I care about are the people around what I'm doing, and that is literally it. So when I care about Yankees baseball, everybody around me is sort of hoping that I get a chance to do this for a career and talk about what I'm passionate about and vice versa. But now that I'm sort of entering into that space, yeah, there's no reason to start caring about other things now that it's working. I'm going to continue to care about the same thing. It is literally people and then being a dad, people, right? That's all it is. And then if something goes wrong, and all of a sudden you hit a low point in the season, you don't get the ratings you want, it's not what I was after to begin with. So, and then it goes great. The average person, you get so ahead of yourself, you start dialing back your work ethic, or you start not really caring so much about what it is you built. Well, yeah, because you didn't care about this thing in the first place. So I'm just going to continue to care about and try to be remembered as being, I guess, I want to make it clear to people what I do care about. And I don't want it to be confused. And obviously, you can hang around some people and you walk in the room, walk right out of it, and you go, you know what? That guy's got a Jordan Belfort mentality. And I've seen it a million times. That person just wants to be famous. They don't care if their mom's in the building. They don't care if they talk to their dad in the building. They don't want to see anybody. They don't really have any friends. I'm not cut from that cloth.
I like that, man. This has been a fun interview. We hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely check out Gary on all social media at Gary Sheffield Jr. Check out our channel, whether you like the Yankees or not. You want to listen to us talk again. We do it every single day during the during the MLB season. Good Lord. At least I didn't say NBA, but yeah, pretty much every single Yankees game afterwards, we are live. So stop by, say hi. And yeah, this has been, I believe, I'm so bad at this, episode 13, I want to say, of the show. So hey, we're off to a great start, and I was really excited to get you on because the Yankees are about to start up again, and we're about to start up again with Yankees Unloaded. And I think obviously the Yankees Unloaded faithful will want to check this out. But for the people that have never checked this out, maybe they'll be inclined to do so. Maybe they'll check you out on covers. I mean, because I'm sure there are a lot of people here that are watching this that are not Yankee fans. And basically, we gave you the solution at the beginning. If you want more Gary Sheffield Jr., well, he's covering the whole MLB. So go and do that.
That's true.
That's all I got.
Yeah, and congrats, by the way, on 1,000 subscribers with the lounge. It's not surprising at all. Like I told you before, you've got the blueprint. You know what it takes. It's going to work. So you just throw in the work, and then if it didn't, you'll just pivot and do something else. So I'm glad this is working out for you. It's not surprising in any way. And obviously, like this video.